to keep my mind right. Keep my mind. Diligence to keep me in the fight. Virtue, knowledge, yeah, that's right. And charity too. It covers a multitude of sins. What? I need it. Give me you, give me you, give me you. I need you, I need you. Give me you, give me you, give me you. 'Cause I need you, I need you. More than the water that I drink, more than the air that I breathe. Give me you, give me you, give me you. 'Cause I need you, I need you, I need you. I need you. Give me you, my King and my Savior.
Funny how you give me instructions and I still barely listen. Feel convictions up in my stomach cause I just keep on sinning. I feel like I'm a vomit cause all my bad decisions. Feel you spiritually and I can't stand to hurt you over again. How could I be so foul with my whole soul in your hands? I'm so sorry, crying on the floor. I can't keep saying that I love you while I'm rolling in my sin. I ain't satisfied until I feel you grinning. Mighty, I'm sorry, not enough, what can I say? Inside of your presence where I really wanna stay. I may fall 20 times, but I never walk away. Prophesying by your side until I end up in that grave. Mighty, I forget my ways. Repenting every day, I feel your presence when I pray. Wanna make you smile while you mentioning my name. I'm so sorry if I caused you any pain. I just wanna say it plain. They say that if you love something then let it go, but dang, I never give you up. I get this feeling more than the love that they claim. Inside of your world I know I'm a mistake. Nah. Mighty, I know I ain't stopping till I'm right there beside you. Between you and everybody else, how you the one I choose. Live my life up as a sacrifice, so you are what I do. Yes I do, yes I do. I be telling them I do. Gotta give them praise, I do. Gotta give them thanks, I do. Hyperventilating from situations that make it hard to find you. I've been innovating and making changes so I can get beside you. Cause if I ever felt your presence fade, I couldn't say what I do. Got me so get me for my sins, yes I repent, yes I repent. You kept me full when my pockets was out of pocket even then. You never gave me to the wolves that hunger for my precious skin. Almighty, I praise to your name until I miss by all my friends. How could I be so foul with my whole soul in your hands? I'm so sorry, crying on the floor. I can't keep saying that I love you while I'm rolling in my sin. I ain't satisfied until I feel you grinning. Mighty, I'm sorry, not enough, what can I say? Inside of your presence where I really wanna stay. I may fall 20 times, but I never walk away. Prophesying by your side until I end up in that grave. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never walk away. I may fall 20 times, but I'll never.
Mamleket Kohanim, Kingdom of Priests, Culture, and Heritage Preservation, to preserve, support, and promote the culture, history, and heritage of African every people scattered worldwide throughout the diaspora. Objective is to raise awareness and support to assist those who descend from the ancient African every groups, scattered throughout the globe with their desire to learn more about their history, The organization's efforts will be to connect with others of this heritage, scattered through the world through education, research, networking, media, and charitable efforts. Exodus chapter 19, verse 5 through 6, King James Version. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine, and there shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, Mamleket, Kohanim, and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 through 10, 9sb 95. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. For you once were not a people, but now you are the people of God. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Here are our customs. We turn towards Jerusalem when praying. 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 38 through 39 says, If they return to you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, where they have been taken captive, and pray toward their land, which you have given to their fathers, in the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name. Then hear from heaven, from the dwelling place, their prayer and supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. We blow the shofar, or trumpet every feast day and Shabbat. Numbers chapter 10, verse 2. Make yourself 2 trumpets of silver, of hammered work you shall make them, and you shall use them for summoning the congregation and for having the camps set out. When both are blown, all the congregation shall gather themselves to you at the doorway of the tent of meeting. Here are some of the every Hebrew words we use. If you are interested in merchandise, please visit our website at https://mamleketkohanim.org. Please read if you are interested in becoming a monthly member, giving a donation, or becoming a volunteer. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank y'all for allowing us to come together one more time. It's good always to see people all in the chat. Shabbat Shalom, Miss Vicky. Shabbat Shalom, Mom. Shabbat Shalom, Elder Thomas. I miss you. I ain't seen you in a while. Shabbat Shalom, Cousin Hazel. Shabbat Shalom, My Best Life. I think that's Miss Rosemary. Shabbat Shalom, as well as Miss cousin Atkinson there as well. Thank you all for coming to be a part of the things Yah has called us to do and come together around the 4 corners as well. We have be celebrating some Purim, even though Purim was earlier this week. Hopefully he had the time to do the fast and to help the community and do the things that we were called to do to celebrate, to bring us together. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that now. You know, there's some people that's always waking up, and it's important that we do so as we get closer to his return. So we want to make sure we always go back through the feast days just so people can get a better understanding of what it's about. So today we'll be going through Purim and also some history around it as well. So, should be, even if you are from the, seen this before, always try to add something new or a different perspective. So you still get something new from this as well. Oh, Shabbat Shalom, brother Nathan as well. Good to have you as well. All right. So today's verse we will be coming from, we've talked a little bit about this in our Bible study as well, but Isaiah 11. Then it says, then a shoot will spring from the stem of Jesse, and a branch from his roots will bear fruit. The Ruach of Yahuwah will rest on him, the Ruach of wisdom and understanding, the Ruach of counsel and strength, the Ruach of knowledge and the fear of Yahuwah. And he will delight in the fear of Yahuwah, and he will not judge by what his eyes see, nor make a decision by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he will judge the poor, and decide with fairness for the affliction of the earth. And he will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. And also righteousness will be in the belt about his loins, and faithfulness the belt about his waist. And the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat, and the calf with the young lion, and the fatling together. And a little boy will lead them. And also the cow and the bear will graze, their young will lie down together. And the lion will eat straw like the ox. The nursing child will play by the hole of the cobra, and the winged child will put his hand on the viper's den. They will not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of knowledge of Yahuwah, as the waters cover the sea. Then in that day the nations resort to the root of Jesse, who will stand as a signal for the peoples, and his resting place will be glorious. Then it will happen on that day that Yahuwah will again recover the second time from his hand the remnant of his people who will remain from Assyria, Egypt, Pathros, Cush, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he will lift up a standard for the nations and assemble the banished ones of Israel, and will gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Then the jealousy of Ephraim will depart, and those who harass Judah will be cut off. Ephraim will not be jealous of Judah, and Judah will not harass Ephraim. They will swoop down on the slopes of the Philistines on the west. Together they will plunder the sons of the east. They will possess Edom and Moab, and the sons of Ammon will be subject to them. And Yahuwah will utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt, and he will wave his hand over the river, and with his scorching wind, and he will strike it into seven streams, and make men walk over dry shod. And there will be a highway from Assyria for the remnant of his people who will be left, just as there was for Israel in the day that they came out of the land of Egypt. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So hopefully you heard Elam there. Elam is Persia. Persia is Elam. And we will be discussing that as part of Purim as well as Arad. So Iran. Let me blow the shofar. Then we can start with prayer. Oh. I was struggling on that one, but praise Yah. All right, let us pray. Turn towards Jerusalem. Dear Yah, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the love that you have shown us, and we ask you to help us to continue to go forward in your word. No matter what happens around the world, help us to focus on you and know that the path that you have given us. We don't know, what's happening around us, and I'm sure during the time of World War I, World War II, Vietnam, everyone thought the world was going to end, but we know that your plan is set, and that we just have to be obedient by getting our heart in line with you. So we ask you for forgiveness for anything that we have done against you, any doubt, any unfaithfulness that we have done, rather if it's in our mind, in our heart, or even in the flesh. We ask you for forgiveness. Help this day be a day that we come and unite to you like our ancestors did on Purim, as they had faith and trusted in you, even in exile, that they return to you and know that you are still standing by their side. So help us to have faith no matter what happens around us, no matter what happens in America, in the U.S., with people coming against African Americans, or even in the diaspora, or even in the continent of Africa, wherever our people are scattered throughout the four corners in Iran, in Iraq, anywhere. We know that our people have to be around the world. So we ask you to protect them and lead us all back to you through our heart and through your son, Yahushua HaMashiach. Bless the rest of the service. Help it be glory unto you, and we uplift you and praise your name and ask you to just help us to touch those that's online, where they can also touch those that's around them as well. We love you and we praise you in Yahushua HaMashiach's name. We do pray. Hallelujah. Amen. So we'll have a song by Maisha.
Are so many wonderful things about Yahusha. There are so many wonderful things about him. There are so many wonderful things about Yahusha. There are so many wonderful things about him. His name is wonderful. He's a mighty good counselor. He is a mighty God, everlasting Father. He is a Prince of Peace. There's so many wonderful things about him. There are so many wonderful things about Yahusha. There are so many wonderful things about him. There are so many wonderful things about Yahusha. There are so many wonderful things about him. His name is wonderful. He's a mighty good counselor. He is a mighty everlasting Father. He is a Prince of Peace. There's so many wonderful things about him. If I had to tell it, I just couldn't tell it all. He picks me up every time I call. That's how I know he hears me when I call. There are so many wonderful things about him. There are so many wonderful things about Yahusha. There are so many wonderful things about him. There are so many wonderful things about Yahusha. There are so many wonderful things about him. His name is wonderful. He's a mighty good counselor. He is a mighty everlasting Father. He is a Prince of Peace. There's so many wonderful things about him.
Hallelujah. Praise Yah. So many wonderful things about him. We thank Yah for allowing us to give him praise. All right. And just from the announcement standpoint, we did put out, old video. We always repost stuff, trying to separate some of the stuff out. So this is one of the ones that we posted here recently, just this past Thursday. So it seems like, I guess it's the right timing for it. And, a lot of people are looking at it. So please continue to pass it around and to show people some of the things that, the Israeli news talks about African Americans being the Israelites, so very important thing to understand, especially share with your family, because a lot of times people think it's just something that, like a phase that black people are going through or something, but they don't even realize this is happening throughout the world. So, and that Israeli people are also recognizing it also. So we ask that you continue to, be with, what we're trying to do and continue to help us as we're trying to get the word out and stuff as well. And, share the video. All right. So next one. So the community Shabbat. So every third Shabbat, we try to have the community Shabbat. So, thank you, Akuti Bianca. She already put it out there for you to go ahead and sign up. If you're interested, please go ahead and do so. We can prepare the right amount of food. Even if you have your children, make sure you put them as a child, or put some note up there just so we will know how much food to prepare, and you know, we'll enjoy anybody who would like to come. You all are welcome as well. So, you know, but that'll be on the 3rd Shabbat. So once you sign up, it will show you where the event is. We do this for security reasons as well. So yeah, please come and be a part. We had a good crowd last time, and you know, a lot of good faces that I haven't seen in a while coming back, and you know, that's what Yah is doing. So praise Him. All right. So next. So yeah, and then we also had a fellowship. This was the announcement from last week. So next. So this is a crowd. Everyone came and ate. So thank y'all for coming. You know, coming out to eat was good to fellowship, meet people, and talk to people. We're outside the service, and we plan on continuing to do it again. So please be a part of that. And next. So we're also planning a men's brunch. So that's just something we're just getting it together now. So we're planning on doing it on March 22nd. So, you know, March 21st is the day that we're all meeting together for the Shabbat service. And the next day after that, we plan on men coming together and just, you know, having a brunch, right? So we try to have it at 12 because we know there's people even in the Christian community that's interested. So we try to do it late enough where, you know, somebody goes to the early service, they can at least come and still fellowship with us and discuss and ask questions. And, you know, especially being the man of the household, a lot of times, you know, women are sad to say, are sometimes faster than us in understanding and jumping into stuff to get a better understanding. And sometimes the men, you know, being over the household, like, what my wife involved in? So, you know, feel free to come, ask questions, and get some understanding for us to fellowship together with other. And even if you already know who we are, it's always good to have that support group as well, which we don't really have in the Awakening. To have people there that could support us, because a lot of times we're not in assemblies and stuff. So this is a good time to come fellowship also. All right. And we're going to interview Sarum. We was going to interview this week, but something happened. So we'll try to interview her next Shabbat and then put that out as well. So that's very important for us to understand this part of our history, not only history, but also our current day people, right? We're connected to people that's currently in these places that know who they are, know that they are a chosen people. So support a book. I read through it as well. It's amazing when you start, especially the cultural part, when it talks about how their culture, you know, our culture connects back to the Bible and some of the things that we have lost. But, you know, we'll talk about that too as part of the interview. So next. And always, if you see some people still joining, so thank you for joining and reaching out to friends and family. I've seen some people reach out, so saw some new people there I didn't really know, but I knew they knew someone in the group, so that's good to have them to come and hear about the things that we're trying to do and for us to uplift one another. So please join that if you know somebody here in the group. If you don't, come one of our fellowships, and we'll be able to put you a part of that as well. All right, so next. And today we'll be doing the online games and activities. As we talked about, this week was Purim for us, so we did a lot of celebrating with your family and stuff. And now we're going to celebrate online at 4 p.m. after service. We're going to break away, get you time to get some lunch and get settled, and come back and play some online games, give out some prizes, and especially the Bible study group that we have. If Akudi Deneen sent out some stuff for the kids, so make sure that they do the little activities, and we try to give them a prize as well, because it's really trying to push forth the next generation as well, so they will learn and be excited about Purim, right? What all the stuff that's going on. So we won't, be at 4 o'clock. We won't drag it out. It'll be a good time. We'll have fun and celebrate, bringing us together. All right. So next. All right, and this is a video we have out there that put out last week, or maybe it was the week before, talking about, the ancient Black Shemites, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. How they painted themselves on the reliefs on their own palace, the Palace of Sushan, and what does that mean? If they're that dark, there's a lot of stuff like the Prince of Persia and stuff that they basically changed the color, another whitewashing of history. So we got to understand that, these people look like us. So that way, if the Shemites look like this, then it's not a far leap to understand that the Israelites look like this, since they were cousins, right? So, all right. So you'll hear the Persian man from Iranian man. He'll talk about, he's Iranian, right? Current day Iranian. He even says that the Persians were black. So very important to understand that. All right, and even a Christian scholar said it as well. So, all right. So next, all right. So this is the Memleket Kohanim, the culture part, the heritage part. I guess I got a bad slide or something up there. Usually it says heritage up there, but next. So for copyright purposes, we can see that we want to make sure I use a lot of people's materials and stuff here, especially today. So just want to make sure people understand this is for teaching and for newsworthy scholarship, criticism, and so forth. All right. So, all right, to start off, Shabbat Shalom, Akpi. Yeah, it's good to see you. Got a great testimony as well. I want people to hear sooner or later. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So a lot of people don't realize the connection of the Shemites. Even in Jewish texts, it says that Ham was black like the raven. Shem was, I think says dark but comely. And Shem was all white. Japheth was all white. So it goes to Shem being like a brown, right? Some people say, in some versions says black. He was black, actually. I'm talking about the Jewish interpretations of some of those. So we can see there's Elam, right? So Elam is who we're talking about today, that ends up being connected to the Persians and the Medes and so forth. And then we can see how our Arphaxad is the lineage of the Israelites, our lineage as well. So you got Eber, who's the Eve or the Eber or the Igbo. A lot of them say that in West Africa that their names are connected to Eber, the father of the Hebrew people. And then you go down, you see Abraham, and then you see our line, Isaac, Jacob, and the Israelites. So also notice under Eber are Joktan, so you can get the Arabians and people like that as well, right? They are Hebrews, right, from a line of Eber. Even under Abraham, you got Ishmael, right, Ishmaelites and people like that as well. So there's a mix of even Edom and Lot, right? So a lot of these are the Ammonites and the Moabites, right? I just read in the scripture about being the enemies of the Israelites, right? So a good portion of these people are a lot of the people that's going to be connected to the last days scriptures as well. So keep that in mind. But, all these are Shemites. So when people start getting an understanding of what a Shemite is, we can kind of understand what's actually in scripture and how to apply that appropriately. All right, so next. So this is basically talking about the descendants of how, once again, how the people, Shemites mix with Hamites. So we see that a lot even in scriptures, but very early, the book of Jubilees, however you take it. I tried to focus on the 66, but even these other books are very helpful to understand at least what they were thinking during that time. Sometimes the books contradict with Torah, right? The first 5 books of the Bible. So, I take Torah as the important one. And as we said, as soon as we have some time, I like to go through some of those extra books as well with people to just show you, highlight some stuff, however you may take it. But we can see here that we can see Arphaxad, right? So that was the son of Shem and the line of the Israelites. And he basically was giving a daughter of Elam. So we can see very early in our ancestry, we should have a connection with the Elamites, right? So they mix among one another. And then later on, we see in verse 7 that we see Eber, right, the father of the Hebrew people, he took on the daughter of Nimrod. So Nimrod is Nimrod. So Nimrod is definitely a Cushite, right? So we know Cushites came from Ham. So we can see very early that the Shemites and the Hamites mix. And as we know in the story of the 12 tribes of Israel. Oh, yeah, I got shirt on today, 12 tribes of Israel. Within that 12 tribes of Israel, we know Judah actually had a Canaanite wife, and also, his daughter Tamar, who was a Canaanite, tricked him as well. So once again, you can see how they mixed a lot with Hamites and Shemites, mix all the way throughout multiple centuries. We can see even like the King David and many of the other kings actually had connections back with some of the Hamite women also. All right. So next. And then Elam, there's a lot of scriptures that point back to him. We won't cover all these, but just to give you, rundown of just to see the number of times that Elam is mentioned, along with the Israelites, especially in the palace of Shushan. So we can see there, Genesis 14 talks about the king of Elam, right? And talks about he takes Lot after the defeat of Sodom and Gomorrah. He and the other kings are defeated by Abraham, right? So he was early battling with Abraham very early. And we can see there in Esther, which we'll be talking a lot about today, we can see how it talks about the Shushan palace that she was in. And if you look on the right, that's what we talked about, some of the figures of the Shushan palace, how they, colored themselves, right? Drew themselves. It's very dark complexion people, even have boxes and stuff, right? So we can see how even in African Americans, we kind of sometimes had that box hairdo also, which is interesting to me, that we have that, the fact that our hair, you have to have hair that stands up like that too. So, you can't have just any kind of hair to do that kind of hairdo. All right, so we can see also in Nehemiah, it makes a reference to how he was in the palace of Shushan. That's Nehemiah. Ezra talks about it as well. Talks about the kings of Persia, Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes, king of Persia. And up at the top right, I think that's Darius, and I don't know who the other one is. But you can see also how he's depicted as a dark, kind of half lion with wings kind of figure. And Second Corinthians as well. Chronicles, it says that now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of Yahuwah spoke by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished. So you see how Jeremiah is being overlapped with Second Chronicles. So, that's important, as we'll read through some of Jeremiah too about Elam. And then Isaiah, you can see where Cyrus, so that's important. I might add something to the slide around that. But Cyrus the Great, right? He's the one that actually was used. He was basically prophesied by Yah hundreds of years before he was born by name. So by name, Yah called him, saying what he was going to do before, hundreds of years before he was born. And talking about how Elam or Persia was going to come and, allow the Israelites to go back in other nations to build the temple, build their palaces and stuff, go back to their own nation. So, and then in Daniel, we know about he was living during the time of reign of Darius. Now that's probably the Darius, the king of the Medes, and then Cyrus, who had his grandfather was a Mede, ended up defeating that kingdom, as well as taking over, that led to take over of the Persian Empire, also spreading throughout Babylon and everywhere else. All right, so next. So we can see, once again, the picture there, and that's the palace of Susan. So it's still standing. I don't think nothing with the war tore it up yet, but it's still standing there, right? It was connected with the Persian people, Elamites as well. I think they're the ones credited with building it. All right, so you can see how dark the men are there, and kind of like the woolly kind of texture kind of hair. These are, I've never seen the movie 300 because I know it has some whole bunch of bad stuff. I did see some clips of it, it had the Baphomet and Satan. It was, a lot of Iranians were mad because it said it put them in a bad light, which they didn't like as well. But these are something about the archers that was there. They were great archers and known for archery, and this was like an elite force, task force of people. So you'll see people try to mix in the story, trying to say they really wasn't Persians, they were Africans that came in. They'll try to say all kind of stuff, but they're painted on the side of the temple, and even in the movie 300, my understanding, they even had some black people as connected to the Persians as well. So it shows you that there's some history out there. All right. So even in the Bible, this is a Christian book I had when I was a minister. I used to use it a lot. And I even as a, while you're waking up, it's very important to understand some of the Christian principles and some of the history and stuff as well, because now, when I was waking up, that was one of the things, like a lot of times as Christians, Christians don't understand their beliefs, right? Nobody really took us through, the beginning of the Trinity and, some of the histories of the different tribes and, kings and all that type of stuff. A lot of Christians don't get that kind of deep study, as I didn't even as a minister. And I got this book when I was in seminary and start going through it. Only one seminary, one semester. Did well, but yeah, came through some conclusions there that I knew that wasn't the best for me. But here it even has Susa, royal city of Queen Esther, and it shows the black Persians, right? So, right, even in Christian resources, that we're talking about Elam and the mixture of Elam with Arphaxad and the people in that region, they're showing them, I don't know if intentionally, but they're showing them as black people, right? So this is a Christian book. So that's why I always hold this up so people can realize that. All right, so next. All right, so this is actually a book from Israel I show a lot. And it basically talks about the sons of Shem. That was at the top and the left. And that's the same picture. That picture on the left at the bottom left is not part of the book. I'm just showing you that's the same picture that they're showing in the book from Israel. And they're basically talking about the sons of Shem. And then we can see how it has in the red rectangle where I'm pointing to is referencing this picture. And it says Elam, a people that live to the east of Babylonia. The picture shows a Elamite soldier from the frieze of the archers in the palace of Susa. So now you can know this is not just some conspiracy theory. This is a book from Israel. And actually, if you go into more, I talk about it in other sessions that we have. But this part we're focused on Elam. But it basically connects them to this man, right? So if you look at him in this picture, he's the only one that has color as part of archaeology. So I always talk about how the first picture is a picture of Eber, right? Supposed to be the descendants of Eber, who end up being the Israelites, and they make a drawing, looks like by a child, well, teenager drawing, right? But if you actually know where that comes from, it's actually they have real archaeology, and it's a picture of a black man. So, or brown, people like to say, but I'm not. Like we say, I'm not the color of a crayon black, right? I'm brown, but they still call me black. So people try to twist around the words when it has some association to us. They try to change it. But so we got to make sure that we understand what we are saying, and what they're saying is totally different. But he's a black man, right? If he came and came to my house and was here, somebody of that complexion, you'll think that was my cousin or something, right? So we got to make sure we understand that. But you can see where it says Palace of Susan, so you can see how all of them were probably of the same color and complexion. And as we said, Nimrod actually was the king of the Middle East, right? He was the king of Iraq, Uruk. So, and being the fact that he was black, Cush, then all the people of that region were probably of that color. The majority of the people of that region should be that color. All right, so next. All right, so the king of Persia and the palaces. So this is important. This is something that I didn't never really know, didn't even pay attention to. So we know that the Elamites are the Persians, right? And they were in the palace of Susa or Sushan, right? It's said different ways, Shushan, Susa, depending on the person who interpreted. I think Sushan is the way that the Persians actually said it, but Europeans came and said it one way, Susa. So here we can see that Persia and Iran is on the right side, is on the right side of Susa, right? And then on the left side, you can kind of see Iran there, right? So it's like in the middle of Iran and Iraq. I'm sorry, on the left side it says Iraq. It's right in the middle of it, right? So if we go into the map on the left side with the red circle, you can see how close it was to actual Babylonia right there, right? Babylon. So remember that the Persian Empire, they took over that whole region. So it just wasn't Iran. They took over all those different places, kind of like the Greeks did, right? The Greeks came in and they took over majority of the Middle East, Syria, and other places as well, because they defeated the Persians, right? All the way over, even Egypt, right? So there was the king of the south, the king of the north that Daniel talks about. So that was the Greek kings fighting against each other after they took over the place. So same thing with the Persians. They took over that wide area and ruled all that for a long time. All right. So when we say Susa, From my understanding, that was the Winter Palace. So you can see on the left, you can see the different palaces there with the square, and Susa was their winter palace that they actually went in, because they said it was very hot during the summer, at least some videos that I read from listened to from archaeologists, right? So that's important because really it's closer to Babylon, right? So going back to Cush, right? Going back to Nimrod. Nimrod was the person who started, the Tower of Babylon. He was the king during that time. Black people was there, as well as Japheth, as well as Shem, right? Because after the Turkey, right, the Noah's Ark came to rest, and that's where they end up going to Babel, and then they disperse from there, right, in different nations. So next, and this is important, this is my DNA. So this is my true ancestry as well as living DNA. So living DNA, it says my father distribution map. And you can see my father, my mom, she has East Indian, right? I know that our family came from some of our family came from East India because they wrote a book about it. And I think I shared that with you all as well. So I would think that this would have been on my mom's side, but it really was on my father's side, right? And there you can see, it's light colored, so it shows you about the people that's connected to you modern day around the world. So right now they're saying that there's people in Iraq and Pakistan that's related to my father. I have no clue why. He is, came from descendants of slaves and free people of color as well. But yeah, they still came from like Africa and stuff, right? So other than us having some ancient connection or our people being relocated there, it's interesting to see that. But also at the right side, my true ancestry doesn't go based on modern day DNA. It goes based upon archaeology digs. So once they take the body up from the grave or whatever, assume the body from a historical standpoint, they take the DNA, and that's how they see who's connected to it. So it says I'm connected to those areas of Babylon, and as well as Iran, northern Iran there. So it gets interesting because at the top you can see that the ancient DNA, it says Bronze Age, northern Iran, and it shows you how close I am. What's that, 37? I think it says there. I can't really see that from here. So the lower the number, the closer you are to that archaeology dig. So it says 37 point, I think that says 15. I need to bring it close. It does. Okay. And then, so that was in 1100 BC, right? And Purim was around 400 BC, give and take a little, right? But then my DNA is actually still connected to that area in northern Iran in 355 BC as well. So that's interesting, right? So, it seems like there's still remnants of my DNA somehow connected, that I was connected to that place in the past. And there's also in that region some people that I'm connected to now also. All right, so next. And then on my, I think this is my heritage DNA, you can see that there's a little place over in India as well. So this is on my mother or father, I'm not really sure. But you can still see the area around Iraq there, but it shows this one place here. And I can't see it from here, so I'm trying to bring it closer to me to make sure I say it right, but I still probably won't say it right. But Gandhara. And Gandhara, you can see on the right where it says the approximate region and some of the cities there around Pakistan as well. But it also shows how far that the Persian kingdom went, because it says that Gandhara was part of the Persian kingdom. So we can see on the bottom left in the writing, it talks about how an ancient Iranian empire founded by Cyrus the Great. So this, even though it's all in Pakistan, this was an connection of Cyrus the Great taking over this place and establishing part of his kingdom there. And it says in Indian subcontinent, following the Achaemenid invasion of the Indus Valley, it appears in various Achaemenid inscriptions, such as the Behistun inscription, and that's what's on the right. So you can see there, it's a picture of some of the Persians there that actually was in that region, some of the kings. You can see the Zoroastrianism sign there of Ahut Mazda there. So they didn't believe in being Muslim back then, or anything. They were actually followers of Zoroastrianism. I might be saying that wrong, but that was one of the major religions around the world at one point. I don't know where it's at now. But so we can see there's some connection to my DNA there also. This is from my heritage. So different DNA tests still is popping up for my region, as I know will probably be of yours also. So I'm just taking you through some of this so you can kind of see how some of this works. All right, so next. All right, so this is a description of I think I showed this last time, but talks about the Elamites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians, right? So it talks about that same connection, right? Where we talked about how Arphaxad married the Elamites, right? There is a curliness of the hair together with a Negro eye and full lips. In the portrait of Assyria, which conveys the idea of an evident Negro element in Babylonia. So Cush is, from the Hamites, and we can see how the picture depicts this lady even in India, southern India, Negroid tribe of southern India. So we know a lot of those people migrated all the way over there as well. So it just shows you how the people in that region it says Negro even, right? Like, so, and I think this is, I always forget to put the book up here, but I believe this is the one that's actually even in the Smithsonian as well. All right, so next. All right, so there are actually some black people that still live in Iran. So Afro-Iranians. And you can see the man up there, Afro-Iranian, he has a box, just like that first picture, that one of those first pictures that we showed, that man, in the archaeology had a box. And we can see that they're depicted with some of the same imagery. And there is a mixture of people as well, because some people said some came over as part of the Arab slave trade or the Indian Ocean one, where they actually had some of our people go over there as part of the slave trade as well. But then some people say that they are the native people, right? So we get multiple stories, just like in many of the other regions, where you have a mixture of events, and people try to always say, "Oh no, they all from Africa," right? But some of them say, "No, we were here before all that." So you start having some of those stories coming out there too. So next. So we're going to show this. This is important. Some of the recent news that came out. This is a lady. She does a lot of Ethiopian news, and she talks about Africa diaspora altogether. I don't really understand this channel altogether because it's a little confusing. Sometimes, they were pushing a lot of Republican stuff at first, but now they're kind of backing off, I guess, with all the stuff that's in the media. But then they also have like IUIC, the what's his name? Nathaniel, right? The leader of IUIC, the people in purple and gold, like they have him on the show and they listen to him. So I don't know exactly what's the source or the makeup of the channel, but they do have a lot of stuff that's going on around the world. They even have people that believe in Nation of Islam talking about some of the stuff there too. And then they have a lot of stuff, even from professional kind of politics and what's going on there too. So it is what it is, but I thought it was interesting because I just saw this where I didn't know about the hostage thing that happened when she'll explain it, but basically they took some hostage in one of the U.S. embassies, and the leader said, release the black people, release the African Americans, because he felt bad about slavery and what happened to us and what was going on with us in America. So I thought this was interesting. So we'll play that first. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go to the next one so I can explain that one too. And this, I didn't put the link, but this is from the Iranian Diaspora Network, where there's some Afro-Iranians that also talk about how they're being treated and what's going on over there now, right? And how now they're trying to get a voice and they're connecting back to us, as well as, you know, the stuff that we're going through. They're like, hey, you know, during George Floyd, you start seeing them voice a lot. So they actually came together and created this um, like nonprofit. I think they're actually in America, and they, you know, want to kind of tell their voice and tell you what's going on there. So we'll show that too. All right. Oh, not this. No, that's the other one first. The other one first. Yeah.
Let me start it again. I think it has paused. So this happened until it loads. I just want to share with you the information. This was in 1979, okay, November to be exact, is when the hostage situation happened. It's actually has a name. It's called the Iran hostage crisis. And during that time is when this happened. I'm waiting for the video to load so that you can hear him explain himself with his own words why they decided to release Black Americans only. And by the way, even though they have released Black Americans immediately after the hostage situation, the others, the 50 plus people, stayed as hostage till January 1981. Keep that in mind.
Today, perhaps today, some Black hostages and some female hostages will be released from the American embassy compound. Is that true?
ما آزادی زنها را و آزادی سیاه‌ها را
The freedom of the women and blacks will be given.
در اسلام یک احترام ویژه دارند.
Women are given great dignity in Islam, and the blacks have been oppressed in the United States. Great injustice was done unto them. They were under pressure in the United States. Thus they came here. We are doing this owing to the tenets of Islam. In return, we ask nothing for their freedom. We want the Shah. Carter must return him. The world's international law agree with this principle.
I ask you, as an American and a human being, talking to an Iranian and another human being, is there no room for compromise? Or is Iran now, in effect, at war with the United States?
حضرت امام آیا جناب عالی یا به طور کلی ایران در حال حاضر با امریکا در حال جنگ هستیم؟
جنگ مقصود چی است؟ اگر مقصود این است که
What do you mean by war? If you mean our armies against the United States armies, no, there is no such war. If you mean it is a battle of nerves, it is Carter's doing. We are against war. We are Muslims. We desire peace for all. Carter does not allow this. Carter should put aside his so-called humanism and return the criminal Shah so that we can conclude this matter.
Yep, that was Supreme Leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini. He was the previous leader before this one that was, unalived. He basically ordered the release of Black Americans hostages, the only ones that were allowed to leave after the fact. This guy was the one that ordered it. And he even said, we're not asking
for anything in return. Because why we're doing this is because we want to stand in solidarity against the oppressed. And we believe that the Blacks in America, that was his word, are oppressed, and we don't want to hold them hostage. So, as I said, this is called the Iran hostage crisis in 1979 in November. Black people were released immediately, and the rest.
So I find that interesting, right? That the fact that at the time, whatever happened in, what was it, 1978 or something, when they had a king that was doing them bad, and he went to United States to get safety. The people got mad and uproared, and took over the embassy, and over the U.S. embassy in Iran. They let the African American people out because of what has happened to us, right? What was going on with us in America. But I find that interesting. Just want to make sure, because remember, our people around the four corners, and I do know about the Arab slave trade, so I knew about that. So I was like, let me look more what's going on. Because I know they got black people, Afro-Iranians. Let's see what they have to say about how they're being treated. I know that slavery was there and they released them. I know at least in, I can't say Iran, but in some of the other countries, they still kind of, like Palestinians, Afro-Palestinians, there's still some there that's being treated terribly. They even lived in the village called the Slave Village or something. So, Afro-Palestinians, speak up about how they're being treated. And then there's some even in, I want to say Qatar or somewhere, maybe Saudi Arabia, that still, kind of, even though they're not officially saying that they're slaves, but sometimes they get people from Africa to come over there, and then they kind of trap them and treat them bad over there too. So, we got to be aware of what's going on. It's never the full people. It's always some good and bad in all people, even our own people. But we got to understand from a nationwide perspective, just like people look at America, right? They don't look at America as African American. They look at America based upon Trump, the leader. Same thing in Israel. It's not like every individual Jewish person believes in everything that their leader Netanyahu is doing. They protested and on the street and all that stuff, right? But the leader is the head of the nation, right? So that's the image that's given based upon their beliefs. Just like we talk about with Cyrus the Great, with the kings of Israel, even when they sinned, the whole nation got punished, right? So in the same sense, we got to understand the viewpoints of what's going on in those nations and how people are treated, especially our people treated on the four corners. So the next video is about that. That's the reason why I want to play that one. We'll start at the 25-minute mark on that one, because we're hearing it from, there was a lot of stuff at the beginning. I'm just trying to shorten. We're not going to show the whole thing because it's long. But I want to kind of let you know, that they're going through some of the same things we're going through, right? Because it was four corners. Deuteronomy 28 said that you will be cursed, be called a byword, you'll be treated bad, right? Other people will rise up above you, even foreigners, right? So let's listen to what's happening over there with them too, all right?
As a positive, and what you see here on the left is that recreation of that same eunuch. And this is why the history part of it is very powerful. How we're represented, if at all, right, is usually in a negative connotation. So the collective is here to take back that representation and rewrite ourselves into history from our perspective, from our stories that are told to us and that we research ourselves.
And we also have been, again, the collective has only been in existence since August 20th, 2020. In my head, it's been in existence all my life. In Alex's head, all his life, but he's younger. So, and, etc. Because you'll notice for a lot of Black Iranians, Black folks in the community, is that oftentimes a lot of us will say, I thought I was the only one. I didn't know there are other ones. And, it's a feeling that could be interpreted as feeling really special and unique, but it's also a feeling that is very isolating and quite stigmatizing in an environment where you may not have other Black folks. I grew up partly in Iran, and I spend still a significant amount of time when I can, when it's not COVID and a pandemic, in Iran. And when I'm in Tehran or Isfahan or in the whole parts of Iran, quite frankly, that I got to go, I stand out. I stand out not because I'm wearing a hijab. I stand out not because I'm dressed differently. I stand out because I'm Black. And people let me know. And people have let me know for since I'm a child. And what's really, really, truly fascinating to me is the ignorance around that reality, which is a testament of how we don't have a dialogue in the community, and which actually students shouldn't surprise anyone, because anybody who comes from this wonderful community know that the most important topics often we love to push it under our beautiful fasces. So you know, we like to read and converse and have dialogues, and we believe that if the conversation is not making you uncomfortable, you're not having a conversation. It's just a performative chit chat. And even though a lot of people don't want to hear it, we do so in the hopes that the children of our children, future children, hopefully will get to a stage where they'll be past that and they'll actually be envisioning the next steps. And so with our partnerships, such as the one that we were so honored to launch with Because We've Read, which is an international radical book club, we dive into, you know, what is transnational Blackness. Quite frankly, for me, and I think it's safe to say for Alex too, we know exactly what transnational Blackness is. You know, we're Black folks who come from parts of the world, whether it is because of migration that were forced or chosen, or folks falling in love, whatever it is. We come from communities that we know have Black folks, while everybody thought that they wouldn't. And then we grew up and we read and we traveled further, for some of us, to many, many different places, and was the confirmation through our experiences, because of course, experiences are also expertise, develop also and turn also into an expertise. That transnational Blackness concept, looking into the presence of Blackness, of Black folks throughout, you know, Swana communities or Mina communities. And what does it, what do we have to say? Someone who is, let's say, you know, Lebanese and maybe Kenyan, who lives in Beirut, or someone who is Iranian of African descent living in Zanzibar, or someone who is African of Iranian descent, someone who is part African, someone who is part Iranian. I mean, there are so many nuances and grays. The fact that the Iranian diaspora have only looked into one you know, way is extremely shocking. So with the Because We've Read and the Collective of Black Iranian, as well as actually Cassava Republic, which is a publishing house, for those who may not be familiar with it, that was founded in Nigeria and is one of the only publishing house in the world that focuses on publishing African voices and Black African voices from across the diaspora. They are publishing a wonderful novel by Victoria Prince Will, called, actually Alex, because he finished it. So I'm still halfway, but you know, In the Palace of Flowers.
Yeah, it's the story of an enslaved Black girl living in Golestan Palace during the Qajar dynasty. And it's a very important story. It's somewhat of a tragedy, and it's the story of being forgotten, which is very parallel to everything that the collective represents. You know, a lot of our stories have been erased and forgotten. So it's very interesting that you know, an African writer could come out and write about this, and it's important that it's done from, once again, a Black perspective. We've paired that book alongside our resident historian's work, Bita Bakulizadeh, an excerpt from Seeing Race, and her research gives the novel a lot of context. And it's a very, very important read when you take into consideration that the Qajar dynasty was not that long ago, right? And you know, it's a couple of generations, you know. So it gives a lot of context to how Black people have ended up in Iran, because we do know that Blackness is transnational. It's not relegated to just one region. It's not relegated to one continent. So there are Black people in Iran, and the research and the novel and all of the other content that we do push out in our partnerships help to, you know, reinforce that seeking that knowledge and seeking that information and putting the pieces of
All right, so just to show, what's they're going through some of the same things. Brother look like he got a Malcolm X shirt on, right? He looks like somebody that might be just walking around here in America, right? That you probably won't even know is even Iranian. So you can see a lot of their features and things, African types of features mixed with us, just like a lot of people in America are African mixed with, British, right? People down in South America is African mixed with Portuguese or Spanish, right? So it's like eventually once we realize that the African side is more important than the other side, we can unite as a people throughout the four corners, right? So you hear them saying they black, right? Like that's more of a racial determiner that was basically used here in the West. So now you can see people are connecting back to their blackness, and I just think it's amazing how people are now waking up and we're seeing stuff that a lot of people in the West, we never heard of Afro-Iranians, right? We didn't know what they were going through. They lost their history, right? Around slavery and some of the stuff that actually happened to them. It's kind of like, don't talk about that. So now they're starting to talk about it, especially the younger generation is coming and they're talking about some of the stuff from Zanzibar that actually was happening. So, even from a standpoint of Zanzibar and where we actually come from, we got to understand where that's coming from too, right? So there's a lot of people going through stuff like that, even in the Middle East as well. So maybe I know a lot of them are Muslim, so but still, I can reach out to them if somebody's from Afro-Iranian background. Please feel reached out. We'll still it's about us trying to come together to understand some of our history, but we'll see even more history there too. So that's important as well. All right. So we're gonna play it just a little bit more. Yeah, my wife just said he looked like me too, like be cousins, right? And that's fun. Well, I won't go into that now, but yeah, I was at employee appreciation at work, and lady, I was just talking about where my hometown was, and the lady found out and wrote me online. And when we were just talking, we found out we were cousins. So we probably all related somehow around the world, right? Like we need to start looking into that more. But that is funny. And Shabbat Shalom, Mighty Hebrew Judah, Yada, and Wilson Renee, and Antoine McKenzie. Thank y'all all for coming and being part of the service today. All right, we'll play a little bit more because I'm trying to get it to a point where they actually had interviews where some of the people over there, I know our time is kind of coming to getting short, but I want to make sure I'm able to put as much as this as I can. So please, allow for a couple more minutes.
puzzle together to understand how indeed Black people did end up in Iran and the connections between Africa and Iran.
Mm-hmm. And it's so we hope you join our book club because we've read. Please read with us. We get a lot of questions in the DMs, and quite frankly, these questions, if you guys read, you would already know the answers. So please join us so that instead of answering questions such as, I didn't know there were Black people in Iran, we can actually think about how can we move forward? And now that we know that, what are the other conversations that can stem from it? What can we grow? What can we do to grow more out of it? So in all our partnerships is what we want to bear in mind is what can potentially help the community to grow with a better understanding of the different segments of who we are, including the Black and African segments. And then comes the amplifying prong, which we also call voices from home, voices of Black Iranians. And we come to challenge also the understanding of home. It's very interesting for our community because evidently all of us or some of us come from immigrant families who have left Iran perhaps in the 70s, perhaps in the late 70s, perhaps in the 80s or the 90s. But stories of migration that continue, just like we looked into in public education prong. Now we have stories of migration from the late 70s and forward. It never stops, of course. And the concept of home and what is home everywhere. When you come from so many different intersections, is a concept that from a very young age, I think for a lot of immigrants also, we wonder, where is home? And we really intentionally called this series Voices from Home, because we want to say that when you come from different intersections, home can be Iran at the same time that it can be the United States, at the same time that it can be France, at the same time that it can be Nigeria, all this in one person, and one doesn't dilute the other. They're all as valid and actually complement and uplift one another. So with the Voices from Home, what we do at the collective is leverage with the different forms of multimedia, and we really look at different forms of multimedia. I mean, we have audios. It's pretty old school. Like, I mean, at least for, I think it's old school, but you know, having this recordings, but it's also a very dignified way to share a story where we share voice, we can hear, you know, the emotion, the vulnerability, the story, all these different vulnerability and sense of humanity that reminds us one another of our humanity despite our differences. And also with videos, with short films that we produce, that we make, as well as poetry. We've had also Afro-Iranians from Boucher write poetry about what it means to be Black to them. Because again, it's also nuances. We give a lot of
خیلی خواستم و اینکه یه چیزیه که اقلیت دارنش و به این خاطر دوستش دارم.
یه روز داشتم از مدرسه می اومدم، با مامانم بودم، یه پسری از ته دلش بهم گفت سیا، بعد خیلی بد گفت. مامانم یه جوری نگام کرد انگار دلش برام سوخت، ولی چون اون سفید بود حس میکردم نمیفهمه من چه حسی دارم.
پسر بچه بهم گفت که برو هموم، چون فکر میکرد که من کثیفم، در صورتی که اصلا این شکلی نبود و این قلب منو شکوند.
This piece was made by.
All right, so I just wanted you to hear it from some of the other people as well. I was trying to get to that point. I think we might have missed a few, but you have now, if we go back to the slides, you will see the link if you're interested in going. And she's actually been interviewed by people over in France and other people too. So you can go there and hear the whole video. It's a whole hour and 30. So we couldn't show the whole thing here, but it's good to educate our people on what's going on. All right, so next one. So I want to also show you some of the Persian artifacts that connects back to the story of Esther as well. Some people say that this story is not a true story. It was like a fable that was created. But I find that interesting because there's some people and some stuff that connects back to this time period as well. So click on that link if you don't mind. And we can see at least there, that's king. The kings right there are, Xerxes and I think it's Darius and Xerxes. I might be wrong with that. But the one that's the story of Esther is the one that's behind the chair. So we can see that he actually is depicted in archaeology there. You can see Xerxes the first. I can't see that from here, so I'm going to click it on myself here. But you can see how this is from the BiblePlaces.com, and we can see that this is archaeology, right? That he's actually a real person. They know he's a real king that actually was in that temple. So sometimes I think people read through the Bible like it's a fairy tale, and these things actually have historical significance to them as well. And then you can see the Palace of Susa there, the second one. And can show you, they had the citadel, like the royal city, and then they actually were the palace, and then they had the city. So sometimes in the story, you'll hear them go back and forth as well. So you can see how the size of it was there. And then you can see, if you scroll down, the Persian gardens, if you scroll down, see the gardens there. There's some talking about how The king gave a banquet in the court of the garden of the king's palace. So you can see that there are some connections even in the drinking vessels there, right? It talks about how they were golden, and they're, you see the golden drinking vessel there. And then if you keep on scrolling down, you'll see that this is a picture of a queen, and the queen, they couldn't actually, they know it's a queen during the time of Artaxerxes, but they're not sure, Cyrus, but they're not sure exactly who she is during that time. And he did marry some people that were outside of Persians also. So was King Esther, or Hadassah, like we like to call her by her Hebrew name, is she part of the the harem of, a lot of times kings have a whole bunch of women. As we see in the story, he had a whole banquet and tribe, but Vashti was the one that he got rid of and got. Was that the main one, or was that a different one? So, we don't know how all that relates back to the historical stuff. So also they say there's not a lot of writings outside of the Bible about the story, but we know they haven't found everything. Some people are so um, puffed up, I would say, to think that, hey, now we know everything. Like we know everything that was going on in that kingdom. Like we've dug up and found everything. So a lot of times you hear a lot of those archaeologists, some of them are actually atheists, they're secular. So they'll try to disprove a lot intentionally, right? I know even when I was in regular school, I went to a Baptist university, and we found out that some people that was in the seminary, they were there to disprove the Bible, right? They were actually going there trying to learn to get their degree to disprove the Bible. So you got people like that as well. And then if you scroll down at the bottom, we can see here, we can see the term law is the Hebrew dath, a word that occurs in the Old Testament only in Ezra and Esther. It comes from the late Babylonian datu, and is used in Persian documents to refer to the law of the king and the law of the gods. While there are contemporary references to the law and the edicts of the king of Persia, no actual law codes have yet been found. The tablet shown here, known as Kabo 74, is a Hittite code, law code that dates to 700 years before the time of Artaxerxes. So we know that they had a very thing about how they were very important about the law, right? Everything had to be based upon the law. Even the king couldn't even change the law. He had to rewrite the law, right? So stuff like that is also important to understand what was going on during that time. All right, so I just want to show you that. And then going back to the slides, that we can see here that even in the time of, another artifact that people talk about is the Cyrus cylinder. So next slide. And it says up there, it says, I am Cyrus, the king of the world. When I entered Babylon, I did not allow anyone to terrorize the land. I kept in view the needs of the people, all the sanctuaries to promote their well-being. I put an end to their misfortune. The great God has delivered all the lands into my hand, the lands that I have made to dwell in a peaceful habitation. So, it even talks about how he came to Babylon. He basically, in this Cyrus seal, even talks about how he allowed, my understanding, to allow the people to go back and start building all the nations, not just the Israelites, but all the nations to go back and try to rebuild their lands, because I guess he felt like, he wanted to tax the money, he wanted support from the people. So that's one of the strategies of building his kingdom. And that's important because, Cyrus was the one that, people in the Bible, as well as we saw that the prophets even talked about him before he was even born, about how he was going to allow them to go back and rebuild the temple. And if you go to the next slide, that's where all the talk came about President Trump, right? So a lot of people found this when he was being elected, the first time he was elected, they connected him to King Cyrus. So they created a temple coin because they're saying that he's going to rebuild the third temple. Now, this was the first time he was elected, right? So we can see that, I don't even know who this guy is here, but he said something about Isaiah 44:48, who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he shall perform my pleasure, saying to Jerusalem, you shall be built, and to the temple, your foundation shall be laid. So a lot of people don't even know about this, which I'm amazed. But during that time, they kept on saying that he's King Cyrus. So isn't he like the 44th president or something? So they were saying the Trump prophecies and all that stuff that a lot of people were hearing about, the Trump prophecy, but they didn't understand what they were truly saying, right? So the country of Israel was so happy that they actually made him a temple coin up at the top. You can see who they basically depicted as Cyrus. It doesn't really look like Cyrus if you look at the bottom, but they depicted him as Cyrus, looking more, European look versus the, archaeology, true archaeology. But they had him beside President Trump face, right? Because they want to rebuild the temple. So that's very important because that was during his first election when he actually moved the capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Trump did that, right? He put the embassy in Jerusalem, right? They gave them certain rights in order to do certain things, and some people said, that could lead to them rebuilding the temple. All right. So now this is just recently, right? They start putting up this thing right before this war started. They putting these banners all throughout Israel saying Cyrus the Great is alive. So that's how strong they feel about him being the person that's going to help rebuild the third temple in Israel, right? So people didn't realize a lot of this stuff was going on back then. I mean, here recently. This is the recent stuff, not the coin, but the banners they put in. And notice they put them up in English, not in Hebrew. So I found that interesting too. Why do they put them up in English versus Hebrew? Right. So it's trying to make a, connection between America and Israel. And now we know, they went to war, with Iran very closely after that. And they actually put a image, a model of the new temple, the third temple, in the area where the Dome of the Rock is. And that was really not supposed to, supposed to be like an illegal act for doing, but they're have so much zeal now in Israel that it's going, some people, not all, because half of Israel is like secular atheists and the other one's not. So but they're basically pushing that along there as well for that third temple. And if you go to the Temple Institute, you can hear some of the stuff that they're talking about, they're saying that they're retraining the Levites and they're ready to build the third temple. A whole bunch of that talk is going on. And people don't realize it's not just about them having Iran having nuclear weapons. And now they're talking about fighting against Turkey, right? They're fighting Syria. They're fighting Lebanon, right? Fighting a lot of those different areas. There's videos where some of the people talk about, back in 2011, some of them were talking about putting Itamar Ben Gvir, right? He's the person over Homeland Security. Just look him up, right? He's the one that got Netanyahu back in power. At least that party did. There's a whole bunch of stuff to it, which I won't go into now. But it's important to understand, right? Because we know that we're the people and that we're ones going to be also brought back into the land. There's some other prophecies that don't all fit right now, right? So what actually is going on? So, I won't expose all that today, but it's important for you to understand. So since we're talking about Cyrus the Great, I thought it would be good to kind of pull that in here too. All right, so next. So here we're going to get into the lesson here. Hopefully that stuff was helpful. So to understand a lot what's going on, I see cousin asked something. I thought it was me. I think that I thought that was me, the man from Persia, the Afro-Persian or Afro-Iranian. So that's funny. Might need to go check his DNA. Like, hey, cousin, I got another cousin. But there is the stuff there. So we need to also go back to the Bible to talk about some of the things in the Bible to get an understanding. And also, as we're going to play some games this afternoon, want to make sure that people are aware, to go through the history. And so you can answer some of the questions as well. So we like to do stuff that's constructive, that's learning, right? Learning the history is one thing for me to go through all these slides. And I know it's a lot of information, but the reinforce the training, learning, we want to go through this, and repetition is also important. It's also important for you to go through it yourself, right? Take the Bible and go through some of this stuff yourself. I try to do it in slides so you can always freeze, and then in your own personal study, go deeper into it as well. All right. So next slide. So this is just a copyright thing. Same thing here. All right. And then this is the meaning of Purim. All right. So there's the Purim that's happening nowadays. A lot of people don't understand, what Purim is. They go and look, most like anybody else, like I did. Go to Jewish, and try to Israel, Jewish culture, and try to figure out what Purim is. But does that also match the Bible? So we're trying to go to our ancient path and not the modern day path, right? Just like anything else, Christmas, the beliefs in or Ramadan that's happening now, Lent, all this is basically all connects back to the ancient Israelite people, right? Our beliefs, and then got changed over time. So we want to go back to what our people were doing before, what I always tell y'all, before the Second Temple period, right? Second Temple period is when all the Babylonian stuff got mixed in and what they call rabbinical Judaism now. But before that period, when King David's temple and Solomon's temple and all that stuff was around, that's when we were trying to go back to that time, and what Yahusha talks about as well, right? He says you try to go to the traditions of your fathers or tradition of your elders, right? Like he's saying, those things are not what you should be focusing on. He really rebuked the Pharisees, right? So that's rabbinical Judaism, right? That's basically what became what we know of today as Orthodox Judaism. But before then, right, what was he talking about? Why was he debating those people during that time? All right. So these are some of the questions that you need them, who is Hadassah? Who is Mordecai? Where did he get his name from? Who is Haman? What is ethnicity? What month is Purim in? How did Purim get its name? How do they celebrate Purim? Who are the Elamites? How do you know they are black? So we kind of went through that already. How are they connected to the Israelites? And where is current day Persia? So we talked a little bit about that already. Just trying to reinforce some of the stuff. Hopefully you got some of that historical stuff in the previous slides. So, and now we're going to go into the biblical piece. All right. So next, this is a good little cartoon. You can go online and see this. I forgot to put the name in here, but they actually go through like sketches and stuff to make it quick and fast to kind of give you the basis of a lot of it. So, I always, try to find stuff on YouTube to kind of help with that. So sometimes the story, the way that they try to turn it to me, is questionable. But you got to have the foundation no matter what. So, a good way to, if you don't have the time to really sit down, if you're working a lot and you're trying to get a basic understanding, sometimes it's good to go through some of this, and you'll see this if you just type in the story of Esther on YouTube, cartoon or comic or something. I should have put the name in, I forgot. All right, so next, you can see.
Bible Project.
You say?
It's called Bible.
Oh, Bible Project. Oh, you saw that?
It's at the bottom.
Oh, it's at the bottom. Bible Project. That's. Oh, create. Okay, there's a right there. There's a little signature there, edited by the Bible Project. So you go to Bible Project Esther, and you'll see it, and it goes through the story, in a way that keeps your attention. Some people don't have, some trouble just reading through a lot of text. Even me, if it's too long, and you might lose stuff. So at least I always say start with something like this, and then go back and read the text, because now you at least got an understanding of the stories, the main themes and stuff as well. And next, so this is also another way of doing it, right? They got a breakout of what's going on in different sections, and you have those guides and stuff as well but a lot of times, like things like this, they talk a lot about Esther, but they don't really talk a lot about Mordecai, right? So there's a lot that is actually going on with Mordecai that people lose track of because we're so in love with the story of Esther and her becoming queen and those type of stuff. But Mordecai, some of the things that he's doing is lost. So first they have a whole bunch of hard times on their hand, and it shows how Yah continues to deliver his people. That's why it's so important, and how we came together, even in the diaspora, how he brought us back together, right? And as we went back to the land of Israel. So that's what I'm saying now. It's like Yah is trying to bring back his people, right? We have to come together. We have to unify as a people across the four corners. He's trying to bring us back. So that's what Mamleket Kornim is trying to do, trying to bring us back together across the four corners. And it got to start with here locally, right? Like until we start locally coming together, how can we expect somebody from Africa or Jamaica or the Black British people or whoever come together? And, this is just the Western hemisphere. And then on the Eastern hemisphere, like we said, you got the Afro-Iranians, the Afro Arabic people, Afro, the city people, the Africans that live among the Indians, people in East India. That's little villages that even some of them don't even know. And there's more than just the city people. There's other African tribes in India that, still have some African customs even to this day. And then even further, even part of the Indian Ocean or the Arab slave trade, even in the transatlantic slave trade, some of the people went all the way down to the Philippines, the South Pacific, and they were getting spices and slaves even from there that were black. So, look up the Fiji people or the Papua New Guinea people or Solomon Island people, and they even have a history of being connected to the Israelites. So we got to understand, how does all this, Yah's going to bring this all together, but how are we doing? Are we doing our part, right? By just doing it locally or statewide or nationwide, right? And then, you know, that's why I even say to my African ox and, well, Akum and Akutis, right? It's like, until the tribes over there come together, it's gonna be hard to try to pull us together along with them, right? Like, if you right there beside this one tribe, you beside it, and y'all still fighting, and then you try to bring America on top of that, it's gonna cause even more issues, right? Because we got all different cultures and stuff. It's good that we still reach out to one another and stuff, but what's going to resolve the local thing? And over here, you know, here we all big fight between frats and sororities and Christians fighting frat and sororities and us fighting the Christians and, you know, Muslim and 5%ers and all this stuff. We don't even know who we are from identity standpoint. So we all over the place. So, you know, we need to at least come together and have conversations, no matter what our, you know, personal beliefs are in faith. As long as we're talking about history, you know, I ain't saying come together and have a prayer circle or nothing. What I'm saying, like, come together and let's just talk about history, right? And then see where that actually takes us. Because I feel like, you know, a lot of religion has been mixed in, but facts about DNA and stuff, facts are facts. So what, as we go down our facts of our history, what were we, what happened, and how did we get to the place that we are now? So it's just like during that time, you know, Queen Esther and Mordecai is there, and Esther's parents are not there. Like, what happened to her parents, right? Did they die? Did they get killed? You know, from Babylon, all the stuff that's happening there, and they're being persecuted in the places that they're living, just like we're being persecuted now. And then they, you know, things actually turn in their favor. So as we are now, it's just like going through some stuff and being persecuted. You know, do we seek Yah as our answer, or are we doing politicians? Are we doing all this? What, you know, what is our answer outside of Yah? So that's where it goes to the song of Moses. I tell people, Deuteronomy 32. He said that, you know, he's gonna wait for us. You know, we're gonna eventually turn. He's gonna be like, oh, now you want to come to me, right? Like, it's a witness against our people. So we can see the same thing happening through judges, through all the stuff when judges, when they get into the land and they lose track of Yah, and then they get persecuted, our people go back to him, right? And even now, our people know how to pray. You know, Gullah Geechee culture, right? Watch night, you know, how this, you know, they were praying, waiting for Emancipation Proclamation to be actually get into effect on January 1st. So that's where watch night comes from for Black people, right? A lot of people do New Year's Eve, but Black people do watch night because we were waiting for our freedom, praying in churches. We knew how to pray. So, you know, how Yah preserves us through all this time. And this is the story, right? This is why we celebrate this in remembrance of how he continues to, you know, keep us, right? Preserve us as we seek him. All right, so next. And, you know, their belief is Zoroastrianism. I told you about that. So a lot of people don't know, if you drive a Mazda car, that's the god of Zoroastrianism, Mazda. So even Mazda, the company car, knows that, and, you know, make reference to that as well. So as you saw in the other picture that we showed about my DNA, you see the same symbol there, and you know about the Mazda symbol, you know, having the wings and, you know, with the little M, it kind of changed over time. But and Mazda's son was Mithra. So Mithra is the sun god as well. So we know that Constantine, he worshipped Mithra, and Mithra, you know, birthday was on December 25th, right? So that came to Sol Invictus, and, you know, a lot of those things and cultures got mixed in together with Roman culture as well. So just want to make sure people understand, you know, at that time, this is what they basically were worshiping. And you can see how it actually got caught up in what we do as well. Oh yeah. So even in Mithra, he was supposed to have been born a virgin. He made a sacrifice of the bull for the world, right? He had disciples. He was crucified. He resurrected the third day, and they had communion, bread, and wine for him. So, and they performed baptisms as well. So you can see how they slowly mixed up the two when they actually got to the Roman era. And, you know, who are you worshiping now? Are you worshiping the Messiah of the Bible, or you worshiping the Messiah of tradition? So you got to really understand that time, like, you know, Constantine time, of what actually happened, to make sure you understand who you truly worshiping. If you of a Bible believer that stays on the Bible or if you're based upon traditions, right? So you got to understand that, because in St. Peter Basilica, they got a picture of Sol Invictus as Christ in St. Peter's Basilica in the Catholic um, Church. So you got to understand what's going on there. But anyway, next. So important piece of the story is that Mordecai, we talked about this last week too, so I'm going to skip over some of the stuff. We'll go through it fast. But he became second in command. So just like Joseph became second in command in Egypt, Mordecai became second in command in Persia, right? So it's important to understand the power of how Yah basically lifted those people up, even while they were in the diaspora, right? So it's just like Daniel and everybody else was lifted up, in the diaspora. Every time a new king came, they kept on lifting up Daniel, right? So y'all can lift up people in our diaspora. I hear people debate about that a lot, and they say, hey, we're not really being persecuted. We're not being treated bad. Well, y'all has grace with some people, right? But it doesn't mean we as a whole, right? So even Moses, right, when he went out to be with his people, right, he was like, oh, my people suffering, even though he was at a high point, and he knew about the suffering as his people as a whole, right? So we need to make sure if we are able to be blessed, it doesn't mean that we need to separate ourselves, right? As we got some gatekeepers in our community now, right, to try to suppress everybody just because they made it up. Like eventually you're going to get suppressed too. You're going to feel, I even say when voting and stuff, I'm like, hey, we got to make sure we vote for some of my people, even if they doing stuff that's wrong, right? They're going to eventually get it, and they're going to, it's just like, what's his name? Tim Scott, right? When they showed that monkey, Tim Scott was like, wait a minute. He's like, I hope, what? The White House put about a monkey. I hope that's not right. He's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, so, we know what's going to happen when it happens, so we know we're going to get it as well, no matter what position that we are. So we got to make sure that we, understand that we're one, right? That unity of all our people. They were up there worried about Queen Esther could have lived and not even worried about what happened to the other people, but she knew that they were going to be destroyed, right? And it could actually came up to her eventually, because once it's written in law, it was written in law, right? So next. So King Xerxes, just some things about him, right? He had the largest kingdom at that time. He had few slaves in his kingdom because he was setting them free. Even like King Cyrus was setting people free, right? Esther starts with him winning a war over Egypt. Vashti rejects his summons. He goes to war again and loses. So, right, he asks for Vashti to come forward, and the book of Esther starts, with him being rejected. And can you imagine that, here you're this powerful king, you go to war and you lose, and your wife is like, rejects you, right? You probably like, oh yeah, time to get a new wife, right? And people start campaigning, trying to get him back in good spirits. That's what some people talk about. So, that's the whole thing where he marries Hadassah, Mr. S, but Queen Hadassah, who becomes Esther. And he had other wives and concubines without indication of the name. So, some could have been Esther. I could put son, but I think I meant some. Some of them could have been Esther, right? So showing you that he had other wives and concubines. So, all the wives and concubines not going to be indicated of who their names and everything. So I think that's part of history that might actually had happened that people are missing as part of the story, or want to take a blind eye to as well. All right, so next. And then Vashti, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's outside of the Bible. I know in our community, a lot of times other stuff outside of the Tanakh comes into our community from different areas. But some stories have that Vashti came in and they were trying to make her nude and naked and stuff. And, the people were drunk and she was scared because she's scared she might get hurt. So, that's some other story that's not in the Bible. One of the big things was that she was being resentful. So that's the reason why he got a new wife. So, but this is just to show, if you heard of those accounts, none of those are in the Bible. So sometimes people hear stuff without actually reading through the Bible and finding it, which we all are victims of. But we want to make sure that, that if you start hearing that kind of stuff, it's more of a Jewish tradition that's being brought in, right? And then there is no reference to Vashti outside the book of Esther. So, like I said, in historical accounts, some people try to connect her according to both her Herodotus. These are like ancient historians, and Cestius. Xerxes' wife was named Amastris, and she was known for her vengeance, cruelty, and powerful influence. That sounds more like a Vashti, right? But in that story, right, that she continued to reign to some degree, but some people think it's because after he died, her son got into power and might have got mama out of the prison and said, okay, mama, come on back, and restore some of her power after her husband died. All right, so next, well, her name means beautiful woman. And Queen Hadassah, as we know, right, she was given a pagan name, Esther, which means star or Ishtar, right, the false goddess of scripture. Ishtar is always talked negative of. That's why I like to call her a Hadassah, which means a myrtle tree. But she was the cousin of Mordecai. She was an orphan. And we know that she was a Benjamite, right? Because we know that Mordecai was a Benjamite and was cousin. So we know she was an orphan there. So we can see how the southern tribe of Judah and Benjamin were together. So even now, after 70 AD, and some of our people went to Africa, some of us could be Benjamin, some of us could be Judah, even though they call it all Judea. So keep that in mind from a historical standpoint, especially when talking about how people went into Africa after this. But the name Esther is not found in secular history as a wife of the Persian king. So that's why I was showing you about that one bust statue head that was showing, right? They don't even know. That was during the time of Xerxes, but they're not sure which wife that was either. So, showing you that there was something going on during that period too. That's why I said we don't know everything looking back. So as they do more archaeology and find more stuff, we find more. So don't let people just say, oh, they didn't find that, so you shouldn't believe in that kind of stuff, right? Make sure you hold true to the Bible, right? That Yah has given us from, he said from the foundation, right? His word was already there. Yahusha is the word. So we know that he already has his plan in store, and people can easily shake you by talking about a particular text. Sometimes certain versions of the Bible have it wrong. So they would point out that one version. You just get caught up in that one version and don't even realize it was a mistake that somebody wrote down in English, right? Year after year after year. So, all right. So next, and then Mordecai, we talked about him already. Great-grandfather left Israel to be sent to Babylon, be sent as Babylon. So we know that from the Babylonians, the Persians came and they took. So his great-grandfather got taken away. As part of that, and he had a pagan name too, right? Mordecai means Marduk, the pagan god, right? And then we know he was the second in command, and that he was a Benjamite as well. All right, just want to make sure we understand the history, and this is important for us as we go a little bit further on. So setting the stage to have more conversation. All right, so next. All right. So this is where we talk about the book of Esther. We talked a little bit about this last Shabbat, but if the book of Esther is, not real, who is this Mordecai and Ezra and Nehemiah, right? So when they're leaving as exiles from Nebuchadnezzar, and the people that return back, we can see Zerubbabel, Yahusha, Nehemiah, right, and Mordecai. All these people are names of, some of the stories that we talk about, that they're in the diaspora, and they're coming back to rebuild the temple, right? So, and then in Nehemiah, you see the same names there. And it says, who returned to Jerusalem and Judah. So, when this actually happened was when they actually, what was it? Was it Darius? Whoever the second king was. We know that happened only like 20 years after Mordecai and the story of Esther was around. So he could have still been living during that time too. All right. And that's important because as they left Babylon and Persia, not everybody went. Some people still stayed back, but some of them actually went. And that's important because next we can see that in the Bible, it talks about the, naming of some of the different tribes and stuff that basically left with Zerubbabel, right? So ancestors of a family who returned from their exile with Zerubbabel. So as they left Babylon and Persia, they're going back, and there's this one tribe called the Sinner tribe. We talked about this tribe before because next we know that this is a tribe in Africa, in Mozambique, the Sinner people. They're in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. So there's a tribe called the Sinner people. And you can say, oh, this is just a similar name. Don't mean it's the same people, right? But it's interesting because the Sinner people have another name, and next slide, they're called the Limba people. So the Sena, the Limba, they are the same people. So the fact that the Limba people say that they were part of the story of Ezra when the women, well, the men, the priests had married Moabite women, and their children couldn't speak Hebrew and didn't have it, lost their customs, that they were kicked out, right? And they went to the city of, well, to the place of Jordan. And we can see that the Limba cities, you know, even in the book of Josephus and other places talk about the city of Limba, and that how they were kicked out. So, you know, even looking at my DNA there, they say they went to Yemen, went from Jordan to Yemen, and then they went down to like Ethiopia, Kenya, went down to Malawi, as we just said, all the way down to Zimbabwe, South Africa. Then they went even to Congo, right? Talked to some that's actually in Congo, the Yimbi tribe, right? So they connected to the Limbas as well. So, and even if you go to Malawi, and I think if you put it in Swahili, like if you take the word Malawi, do it with a lowercase m and Google Translate and type that in, and how in Swahili language, it will convert it to mean the Levites. So the whole country has a connection to a name called the Levites, right? So if you do that, it's amazing. Somebody showed me that, and I you know, love to give her credit because she showed me, but can't remember her name. But then you can see in my DNA, you see Jordan, right? You can see Yemen, you can see some of the same places that I just talked about, right? Jew, Ethiopian Jew, that's Ethiopia. Same places that migrated if you start from the bottom and go up. And what's the first one is Limba, right? So our closest, so many of our closest ancestors are the Limba. So they know this, right? Duke University, UNC-TV here in North Carolina, they put articles about us. So why we don't know this, right? So connecting us back to the exile of the Purim story. All right, so next. So we know Haman was the enemy of the Israelites because he was a descendant of Amalek, right? So Yah said that these two people will fight forever, the Israelites and the Amalek, until the end. So next. We talked about this already. So we know that Amalek in the story of Exodus was a time where Moses was leaving, and on his way out, I think I want to say it's Riftim. They basically had a battle. Yeah, Riftim. They had a battle, and you know they had to hold Moses' hands up with the banner. Because every time it went down, they would lose against Amalek. And when you know his two, Aaron and Hur, I think, held his arms up, he will win the battle. So they held his arms up, and Joshua won the battle. And that's when he said that from generation to generation that you know Yahuwah will have war with Amalek, right? Until they are blotted out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. So next we know that Amalek was from Edom, Esau, right? So they were Edomites as well. There's a connection. And we know in the book of Obadiah it says how he's going to get rid of all that, right? So, all right. So next, we talked a little bit about that before. But then we also talked about the crafty counsel in Psalms 83. We talk about how, you know, it talks about how a confederate comes together and they said, come, let us wipe them out as a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more, right? So they come together and conspire against the children of Israel, against Yah, really. And two of the people that nations that's there are Edom and Amalek, right? But then also we can see the sons of Ammon, Moab. So those are sons of Lot, right? Even says in verse 8, Assyria has also joined with them. They have become a help to the children of Lot. So Lot was the nephew of Abraham, and those are the ones who's going to be the enemies. So as you just read through that, Ishmaelites and all the other people, you can see that most of these are Shemitic or Hebrew nations. You get the Philistia. Philistia is more of a Hamite nation. We're talking about the Philistines, but black and brown people fighting against the Israelites, right? When it comes to talking about wiping them off the earth. So if you read Ezekiel 37, 38, and 39, 38 basically talks about when Gog and Magog is going to come. I think we got that in here. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, got it right here. Oh no, this is the prophecy. But anyway, I got it in here coming up. But we know that some of those same nations are in Turkey today. A lot of times they change it to say Russia or China. That happened later on in European history. They try to, redirect some of that bad tension of the Bible to other countries. But Russia's still part of it, but a lot of good base of it was traditionally was Turkey area. All right. So keep that in mind with all that's going on in the world and how Israel's trying to fight Turkey now. We don't know how prophecy will play itself out, but we know that prophecy talks about stuff and we know it stands true. But here is a prophecy against Elam that Yah had in Jeremiah 49 I talked about earlier. But it says, that which came as the word of Yahuwah to Jeremiah the prophet concerning Elam at the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, thus says Yahuwah of hosts, behold, I'm going to break the bow of Elam, the finest of their might. I will bring upon Elam the four winds from the four ends of earth, and I will scatter them to all these winds, and there will be no nation to which the outcasts of Elam will not go. So I will shatter Elam before their enemies, and before those who seek their lives, and I will bring calamity upon them, even my fierce anger, declares Yahuwah. And I will send out the sword after them until I have consumed them. Then I will set my throne in Elam and destroy out of it king and princes, declares Yahuwah. But it will come about in the last days that I will restore the fortunes of Elam. That's interesting, right? Because he has a plan for Elam, right? So the question is, has this already happened? Because, Alexander the Great came in there and he destroyed a lot of the Persian Empire. Or is this still a future prophecy still to be met, right? But we know verse 39 says last days. So we know that's the last day scripture. So that they will be restored in some capacity, because the next slide talks about, this is the one I was talking about. So in Revelation 20:7, it talks about how when Satan is released, that he will basically go to the four corners of the earth once again and deceive nations. Gog and Magog mentioned. So we know Magog is, we talked about this during our Bible study over the last couple of weeks, but Magog is a Japhetic nation. So that's not racist to say that, because the Bible tells us that, right? European Japhetic nation is going to be in power, and, the devil's going to deceive some of them, right? And the number of them is like the sand of the seashore. So if we jump down, as we're reading now, right, in Ezekiel 38, we just read this during last Thursday. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward Gog and of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, Tubal, and prophesy against them. So like I said, a lot of those countries right there was actually in Turkey. Or some of them is like southern Russia, but majority is Turkey. Even Javan, right? We know that was out of Turkey area, as we know today. It's Greek, the Greek kingdom. But it says later on, I said, behold, I'm against you, O Gog, prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal. I will put hooks in your jaws and bring you out on all your army horses and horsemen. And then it says in verse 5, Persia, which is Elam, Ethiopia, and Put will with them, and all of them with shield and helmet. So Persia, Elam, is going to join in the last day battle against us, right, as a people. So we got to keep that track of that too, right? We can't push them too much, and then they'll be a part of the downfall. And including with Ethiopia, right? Ethiopia, not the modern day Ethiopian, but Ethiopia actually means Cush, which has been Sudan and Ethiopia and some of the other major parts of Africa. Put is Libya, right? So is the word true or is not, right? So that's where we got to make sure we put those things in perspective. And when we look at prophecy that's happening now, we got to keep this in perspective, right? Keep this in mind. So we know Persia is going to make it. They might get destroyed or something might happen to them, but it says that they're going to recover their wealth in the last days. So is that the nation that they're in now? Have they recovered their wealth, or is it going to be something different? And then, as we talk about Turkey and all that stuff, but we know that Elam is part of that. All right. So next. So we know that also, as we know in in the book of Esther, we know that our people were taken to the land of Elam, to Persia, right? So Isaiah 11 is a prophecy talking about how Yah is going to restore his people in the last days. So Isaiah 11:11, in that day Yahuwah will reach out his hand a second time. So we know that's not the first Exodus, this is a second Exodus, to bring back the remnant of his people, those who are left. And it starts talking about the different countries, those who remain in Assyria, northern Egypt, and southern Egypt, and Ethiopia, and Elam, and Babylonian, and Hamath, and all the distant coastlands, right? So talks a lot, just like some of the other things that was just talking about, right? When it talked about the different nations that will be, Ethiopia will come against us, Elam will come against us, right? Babylonia, that was actually part of the Persian Empire at one time, but we know in Revelation talks about the Babylon, right? So we can see a lot of those things are, connected there. But it says all the distant coastlands. So coastlands are beaches. So it's like America, right? Coastland, places that we came in as slaves, or like we talked about even over in the South Pacific, some of the places that we're taking over there. He will raise a flag from among the nations and assemble the exiles of Israel. He will gather the scattered people of Judah. He said Judah, right? So, Judah, is he talking about just the tribe of Judah? He's talking about Judea, the Judah and Benjamin from the ends of the earth. All right. So next. So now we can see something going on there. Oh, this is just my computer. So we can basically see, all the nations. You can see that's where all our people went throughout the Bible. So we can see that Elam, and Dan, Daniel had a vision when he was in Shushan and in the province of Elam. And we know that in the story of Queen Esther, it talks about who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity, which had been carried away with Jochanaan, king of Judah, who Nebuchadnezzar and the king of Babylon had carried away. So that's part of Esther, right? He basically breaks that down, talking about how they got brought to that area. Shushan is also, talking about Babylonia. So all the places that, Shushan is the temple, but Babylonian is the Shinar. So we can see all the different places in history. You can freeze that and go through it. Went through it in another teaching in the past, but you can see all those places that our people Israel had a place, and he said a remnant, he's going to go and back and get them. Right, so including us. All right, so next. So Purim. So Purim is celebrated in current day Israel. This is the times of Israel in Jewish news, right? So this is how they celebrate Purim, in some instances, right? They are going against cigarettes for kids, because it's supposed to be a day of, whatever you want to do. It's like an open, have fun, do what you want to do. Let your hair down. I guess black people can't do except for women. But, it's kind of like do what you want to do. So they got kids doing stuff that's bad. They have a lot of blackface and a lot of mockery. I'm still trying to understand why they do that so much, but they do that. These are kids dressed up as KKK members, and they have dressed up in blackface like slaves. And then they have, even around homosexualities for them to come out a lot with that. So, as we talked about, Israel is a holy nation. So, well, in the Bible. So, why is there a difference of what's happening now versus what Yah has in store for it? So even some Jewish people, they feel like they're not supposed to be in Israel now. Some up in New York, they say they're not supposed to be living in there until the Messiah comes, and they basically are against some of this too. So it's not just us and other people saying this. This is even some people in their own area talking against some of this. Some of them against black, a lot of them against blackface, but it just seems like every year it ends up popping up. So next slide. And we can see that, right? So just different articles in the news where that has happened, where kids actually dressed up in blackface. Certain, people that were connected to, like government offices had it. Certain people that had like companies and stuff had blackface on as well. So there's this actress, I think she's a comedian. She openly does it, and she got awards and stuff. Nothing got so. This is not just to go against their community, but we got to defend our community as well, right? So like the thing there that's hanging, right, with the dreadlocks, looks like, they have a thing where they used to take Haman, right, the Amalek, right, Amalekite, and used to, hang a effigy, like hang them, like a effigy, like dummies and stuff. So I don't know if that's connected to that, but that's interesting that, that would be there. So some of them are going against their own community and telling them, rebuking them, saying you don't need to do that. But why does it keep happening? Why us, right? Why do it keep on happening around us? So next, see, that's where they had Jewish group urges communities no blackface this Purim. So they know about this, right? So races, and they're not just us; they're against some of the other Jewish communities as well. So a lot of people don't know about the different breakups of the Jewish communities. It's not just Ashkenazis, there's Ethiopian Jews, there's Mizrahi Jews like North Africa, Iranian Jews, there's a whole bunch of them living in Israel now, right? So, but some of the other ones kind of get this backlash as well, like Ethiopian Jews, they're treated terrible from what I've at least seen. Even though some of them try to suppress it, they don't want to talk about it. But then you also see Mizrahi Jews, right? So they're basically acting like Mizrahi Jews and coloring their face and mocking them at school. So it's like, why is this happening to the darker people who reference to being Israelites? So, you know, I always talk about the Jews of color. You know, the Jews of color are supposed to be different people, Sephardic Jews and all kinds of different people as well. I try to reach out to them, but they say you have to be, you know, part of Judaism, at least the one I contacted. Can't say for all, which I find interesting, right? But so next. So this is the thing with Purim. So this is where the meaning of it came, because pure means a lot. So Haman, he casted lots and found out what time he was supposed to attack the Israelites. And, you know, that pure was the lot, right? That's the word for lot. So that's where that comes from. And he had planned that, let me see, where is it? Where's the day? Oh, right there. Was cast before Haman from day to day, from month to month, until the 12th month, and that is the month of Adar. So we can see, you know, that's when he came to this plan to attack our people. And he basically showed the differences between them. So they had a plan in place to do this. And, you know, it came around the 13th day of the first month where the scribes were summoned. And they basically made the command to, you know, like Haman wanted for them to do so on that day. And the 13th day, let me see, and it was planned, the letters were sent by couriers to all the king's province to destroy and kill and to annihilate all the Jews, both young and old, women and children, one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. So we can see, you know, that was the plan in the city, in the palace of Susa or Sushan. All right, so next. And so we know that, you know, that's what I was just talking about, the casting of lots, right? That was where the name actually comes from, the old Persian word connected with the Latin pars, signifying part or lot. So some of the lots that you can see in the past, how they might have looked, not all of them. You see some dice there too. All right, so next. And then there was a weeping and fasting because, you know, she told after Mordecai found out what was happening, he ripped his clothes, he started to mourn, right? So the question is, are we going through a mourning now? Or it's just amazing to me where all this stuff is going on. People are like, let's go party. Let's still go do this. Like, where's the prayer and repentance? And it's like something has to happen before we get on our knees and truly seek him like we're supposed to. Right. So I feel like that's what's going to happen now. Like we're going to have to really truly seek him, get on our knees. Something's going to have to force us to do that, just like it happened during that time. Right. People are getting so comfortable living in the diaspora. We have assimilated into other customs, to another nation, and stuff is not ours. Right. People hold tighter to a culture that's not ours than we hold to our own culture. Right. That people are not even interested in even learning about our own culture or anything because they're so caught up on other people's cultures, you know, like we talk about frats and sorority. That's Greek culture. It has nothing to do with us. But people are so tied up in our community, even, you know, getting open brands and hazing and all that just to be a part of something where even, you know, European Americans, you know, they go frats and stuff, but you don't see nothing about that after they, you know, graduate. I don't even hear a lot of people talk about their, you know, white people talk about their frat stuff. Euro-Americans talk about their frat stuff, right? But black people, until they about 99, they're going to be up there trying to stay up or do some kind of dance or something. And I'm like, wow, what in the world? But when you start talking about our own culture that's connected to the Bible, they reject it. Like, oh, no, don't want to do that. So y'all's going to have to do a lot of shaking, I feel like. But, you know, as part, when they were shaking up, our people, like I said, our people know how to pray. When stuff happens, we don't know how to get on our knees and pray. Because in 15, it says, then Esther told the reply to Mordecai, go assemble all the Jews who are found in Susa, the city, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. She was serious about that thing. She said, don't eat nothing. Don't drink nothing. If I got to go before this king, it might cost me my life. like really seek Yah, right, before I make a decision. So, well, you know, we got to do the same thing for our leaders and make sure that we support them and things that they do as they go before, you know, big time people in order, at least in our sight, but nobody's bigger than our Yah, right? Hallelujah. So next. And then that's when they start celebrating it, right? So it's very important that we go through a lot of this really to understand. So this is the chapter 9. If you go through chapter 9, you can see a lot of stuff that they actually did and how they start celebrating the day and doing all those type of things, the appointed time. And they didn't want this to be forgotten, right? Because they don't, if you start forgetting stuff like the slave trade, right? They try to put the slave trade and act like it wasn't a big problem, get over it kind of thing, and want people to forget it. But if we allow people to forget it, the next generation won't remember either, right? They'll even now, some of them already think, they're teaching in some places, was it Florida, where they teach that slavery was indentured, right? Like the whole party. Now, some of it was at the beginning, but that we were still slaves being brought off another boat, brought to America in Jamestown, and then we were indentured, but they didn't take us back home. Like they knew where they got us from. Why didn't they just take us back? Because we had to serve those times in order for that payment that was done by those pirates. And then that led to worse stuff, Bacon's Rebellion. Just look up Bacon's Rebellion. And then, they didn't want the memory of this, to what Yah did for the people to leave. Just like Passover, right? Yah said, do these feast days over and over, how I brought you out of Egypt, right? Like, don't ever forget that. Don't forget what I've done for you. Don't forget. So some people don't like celebrating this times, which, I'm not knocking. But because it's not a mandatory feast days, but it's a memorial, right? To remember, don't forget what I've done for you, right? Just like we do for graduations, right? Like, oh, I graduated. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, for sending me to college and the money, all the stuff you spent. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for high school, for being with me when I was rebellious, right? It's like that memorial, right? So this is a time that our Father, our Ab, took us out, right? And watched over us. So it's a time for us to celebrate. Right, so that's why I look at it as a memorial of his deliverance and his continuing deliverance, so it won't be forgotten. All right, so next. So these are the main things that they did. They found unity, they feasting, rejoicing, sent food and presents to the poor, right? So it's not just supposed to be a day of just having fun and stuff on ourselves. We're supposed to, like I said, it's supposed to be thinking about everybody. The poor, the rich, everybody should be included in this, right? So we should be thinking, and also it's not just supposed to be you isolated by yourself. It's not just a learning time, it says it's supposed to bring and share food and do stuff like that. So it's a good time to actually evangelize to people who don't know about what this is all about, right? You go to people and you give them food, they be like, what's that about? It's Purim, what's that? Right? Even if they're Christian, they're gonna be like, what's Purim? Even though it's in the Bible. But you share it to them why it's important and stuff, right? So it's a day that you can actually do that, and it's really, I say 3 days, because 1 day is a fasting and then 2 days is a celebration. Next, so these are the different things that they did, and the morals from the story, right? So make sure we pray and fast, not only in the time of despair, all the time, but especially in the time of despair. We got to trust in Yah while we're in exile. Right now we're in exile, right? He said in Deuteronomy 30. That we'll be in the nations that he scattered us to, right? And we'll remember his blessings and curses, and he's going to come back and get us. Do we remember that now, right? Is that something that we're remembering, or it's just a scripture that is in the Old Testament, as some people say, and it's not that important? But he has a plan. He has a plan from the very beginning, and we got to trust in him, right? And eventually, he's going to go to Jerusalem and go the first time he calls us, right? So we saw in Isaiah 11:11. Isaiah 11, how some people, there's still a remnant out there. So why didn't they go the first time? Why didn't they go back with everybody else, right? So, when he calls us to go this time, he says it's going to be even greater, right? So we better make sure we'll be ready to go. Don't get hold on to places that we have been assimilated into, because he has a plan for us. And that plan is going to happen. But they didn't do everything right, but they tried to keep the laws, just like then, right? They were getting called by the second one, pagan names, Morduk and Mordecai, right? It's Morduk and Esther. My name, Colwyn is a river in Welsh. Like, I don't know what that means. That's my first name. Thankfully, my mom gave me the middle name, J. Shear, for my Hebrew name. And then we all know about like the last name, right? We're talking about Malcolm X, right? He crossed out his last name because it was the slave name. So we got to know that this is not our home, right? This is a temporary place. Everybody wanted to go back to Jerusalem all the time, like I talked about last week. But don't get attached to Babylon. Don't get attached to this place, right? Because he said the nations that, Deuteronomy 30, the nations that he's going to bring us out of will be destroyed. So you don't want to be left behind. and he will raise us up when we are ready to do what is right by him. So, he's waiting for us, right? So that's the reason why we need to be praying, understand our history, teach it to our children from generations, so that righteous remnant of people, it's not going to be everybody, but it's going to be the ones but he said he's going to take everybody. So in Ezekiel 20, he said he's going to take everybody to the wilderness, and that's when you're going to pass under that rod. You pass under that rod, he's going to, just like a sheep, he's going to check if you are doing what's right, perfect, in his sight, right? We're never going to be perfect by the law, but perfect in his sight. He knows your heart. He's going to be looking at your heart. And true heart, not just what we say. Some people are like, oh, it's in my heart. No, y'all knows your true heart. But he's going to separate those. And the ones that's rebellious are going to be left out. And he's going to bring the righteous ones back to Israel, right back to Jerusalem. So we got to make sure that we're ready, right? And it's making sure our heart, when we cry out to him, he's going to hear us. And I think people know that. People know where they got us from. They know where they took us off and who we were. They know all this history about us. They got in Duke, like I said, Duke University, PBS, all these different public broadcasting channels. For those that's not local, that's the North Carolina channel here that they play, like, public broadcast. But they know about all this stuff. So Yale, we see maps in Yale and Harvard and, all stuff that they talk about us all around the world and talk about what happened in that period. They know exactly what happened to us. They know who we are. But when will we not only know, but react to it, right? So if that's true of who we are as a people of Israel, that means the Bible is true, and we need to get back to the plan that Yah has called us to do. All right, so next, these are just some small things to show you how this is continual. So even in 700, I think this is around 700 AD, when they were kicking out the Spain and our Black Portuguese ancestors, and right before the transatlantic slave trade, they were basically forced us to renounce who we were as the Israelites, right? And our customs. So, and they said it will be anathema, basically be sent to hell if we continue to do these things, right? But as it goes through a whole bunch of stuff, the Sabbaths and new moons at the top. But in the middle, you can see there, it says, together with all these Jewish heresies and, I can't see what that word is, hierarchies? Is that what it says? Heresiarchs, I think that says, Duratas, and givers thereof, I anathemize those who celebrate the feast of Mordecai on the first Sabbath of the Christian fast, hanging the effigy of Haman on a gibbet. So remember I was talking about how they were hanging that black statue from their neck, and mingling the signs of the cross therewith, and burning all together, and subjecting the Christians to every kind of curse and anathema. So they were rebuking them, our people in Spain and Portugal, for keeping the Feast of Mordecai, way back in 700, 700 AD on this side of the cross of what Messiah did, right? So, they were trying to curse us and trying to force us to be new Christians and take on their faith. If we did anything from, even as new Christians, any about our past things, we would be, killed, we would be executed. So I can see how strong it was that they, even during that time, how the Catholic Church was trying to pull that out of us. And even in Africa, when they went down there, anything that they did with circumcision and stuff, they call it heathen. Anytime people dance a little bit, oh, that's wrong. You got to be quiet and still. And, one of my son's Christian schools, had to slap your thigh. They couldn't even clap. You had to slap your thigh. I don't know what that is. But I went to a Baptist college, as I was saying, and I went to some of those Baptist churches, and I just got saved. I was a Christian in college. And, when one was there, she was doing a little bell concert. She was bringing them bells. She was going off. And she was done. I was like, and everybody was so quiet. They looked at me. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know what had happened. So, our celebration and how we worship him is very unique. David danced and stuff. They had cymbals, tambourines and stuff, right? That Miriam and stuff had. So it just shows you, how this is all rooted in our culture, right? So next, but there's a thing that's our power. They know that, right? So we know in Esther that the king basically gave them access when Mordecai asked to defend themselves, right? So, even though there was laws against them, he gave them laws to defend themselves. He ordered to eat it. So in the same way, I thought this was interesting. If you read the NLT, New Living Translation, next slide, you can see they put dates in there. And I thought it was interesting that they actually put, dates based upon the Gregorian type of calendar, right? So it says on June 25th, right, the king's secretaries were summoned and the decree was written exactly as Mordecai dictated, right? So basically it's the day that they got their defense day. And then I just looked up, is there anything that happened on June 25th in our history as African Americans? But it says, after thousands of Black people threatened to march on Washington to demand equal employment rights, President Roosevelt issued Executive Order 8802 on June 25th. It opened national defense jobs. So gave us a way to be on our national defense when before we weren't getting those jobs. So I thought that was very interesting. And, I just randomly just Googled it and that came up. But in other government jobs to all Americans, regardless. So we basically got it right to defend ourselves, right? To be on the Department of Defense, right? I thought that was just interesting. Of course, these are just coincidences, right? Because other countries, Africa and Brazil, I don't know if they have something similar, but I just thought it was interesting here in America for us to get these rights. But in Esther 8, it says March 7th of the next year, a copy of the decree was to be issued as law to every province and proclaim all people so that the Jews would be ready to take vengeance on their enemies on the appointed time. And on March the 7th, several civil rights protests occurred throughout Alabama. So we start rising up on March 7th. An estimated 600 civil rights activists hold a march. Is it held or hold? I can't see that's hold a march from Selma to Montgomery, protesting the denial of Black people voting rights in the state. So, seems like, we rose up then just like it was rose up during that time to defend ourselves as well. So good way to remember some dates. I don't know why they put these dates particular in the NLT version, but, I was just trying to make some parallels there. So next. And then a lot of people don't realize even though the Second Amendment was for guns, that was not always given to Black people, right? So that was a big thing, even now to today, that some places we are not given the right to defend ourselves. That those laws were for those who were citizens of the U.S. and we weren't at that time. So, there are some things that they try to change, but still there's some laws still on the books that has us where we are not supposed to defend ourselves in certain places. So, be careful with some of these. That's the reason why I tell people, make sure you vote. It's not all about the presidential race. Sometimes it's the local laws. It's the state laws. That's where the real power is, right? That's why Trump can't go to this state and just do what he wants to do in this state, right? Because not this state as in North Carolina, because definitely he does what he wants to do here. But in like California and some of those Democratic states, right? Because that's where the power truly lies. If they ever give up that power, that's when we're really in trouble. Right. And it's not constitutional. So, but, even when it comes to some of these laws, we got to make sure that we have the right people in place, because if not, we can be put right back to where we are, where we were way back then as well. So next. All right. So even in the scripture, it talks about when the Israelites start rising up, that other people were fearful, right, of what was happening. They saw the power of Yah. And it says that some people became Jews, right? How do you become a Jew? Right, but it showed you that there was some conversion happening even in the story of Esther, right? Even it says from India to Ethiopia. So all that people were converting to being Jews, so taking on the customs just like Esther did, right? Even back then, because they feared of what Yah was doing in that time. I just found that interesting. How people actually weren't physically Israelites, but yet they were still converting to believing in what they believed, right? To gravitate to. So we always preach here, right? Share here that Gentiles are welcome, right? Into what Yah has. Now we are the bloodline. Yah has special favor with us, but it doesn't mean that Yah is going to destroy all other people as well. All right. So next. All right. So that's the last one. You can go back to the last one. All right. So just to share, I know it was a lot kind of cover over through it. Please feel free to go back through it, but want to make sure you get a total understanding, as much as I can give, of what was going on, the archaeology behind it, and even how that relates back to us and where we are today. All right. So any questions we have? Oh, we're trying to get some stuff together. So yeah, bear with us. trying to get some stuff. This is a nonprofit. I'm trying to actually get some other stuff to make it a little easier for me to do a little stuff. But, out of our regulations, you can't, push for-profits and nonprofits and all that. So we want to make sure we adhere to the law. But there's some stuff coming. I'm just so busy to try to get it together, but it's coming. It's coming. So keep us in prayer on how to go about that as also. But yes, thank you for your interest in asking the question. But you can always get this stuff for free by coming to the Bible studies and stuff. So, it's not that we're trying to sell any information. It's just my time. And, we teach a lot of this stuff over and over. So if you come to the Bible study, you'll get billed with that. So, that's free for you to come be a part of, ask questions and stuff. And that's really what I would like to build as a nonprofit. But right now we don't have enough support to do it in the way that I'm trying to do it. So that's the reason why I'm trying to do a for-profit so I can, get the word out, teach and do other stuff too outside of just my regular time. Hopefully, just like the Christian church, people end up, supporting the leaders, not just me, leaders all throughout, but a lot of time in our Hebrew community, some people don't have the same zeal as they did. So it's kind of hard to do that. And I can understand why some of the people are now doing like the for-profit way, because trying to still, stay afloat with all the other stuff. So I'm morally doing it because I'm trying to give more money to what we're trying to do. And there are certain restraints for nonprofits that I can't give until other people give. So that's the reason why I'm doing for profit, but I got to make a profit too at that. So, but keep that in prayer as well. But we will trying to find ways to do so. Thank you for asking. Any other question I might have missed? All right. So for those that's still going to be, part of Bible study, basically those that's part of the Bible study, make sure that you use the Bible study link to come back at 4. And there's some stuff that Akuti Deneen sent out and Miss Rosemary as well about some of the activities and, making sure the kids do the coloring stuff in order to get a prize. So make sure you stay in the WhatsApp group and respond, get your kids ready, because it's really trying to get them involved, and it's going to be some games for the adults too, so it's going to be fun for all right, so go get something to eat and come back in 4 after we have prayer. Have your camera on if you can. So it'll be good to be able to have a social when we actually get on to the Bible study so people can start understanding faces and meet each other. So all right, let us pray. Thank you, y'all, for all the things you've done and all the things you continue to do with your people. Help us to continue to learn as we come before you humbly. We know that you have a plan in place, so help us to get in place to receive the goodness that you have in store for us. Not one that we have to work out with our own hands, but if we just trust in you and humble ourselves before you, allow you to use us through your Ruach HaKodesh, through what your son did on the cross for our sins, we know that you're going to do great things. So we ask you to help us to have trust in you, to have faith in you, just like our ancestors did at the time when they were living in exile, that they trusted in you and trusted in what you have in store, knew that your power of what the things that you want to do, that you basically set us up to be blessed, even through all the stuff that happened, all the mess that happens around us. So we ask you to do that same thing in our jobs and our lives. You know what we're going through in the persecution, whether it's at work or at, being who we are as Israel or knowing who we are as a people, that you know that people don't like that, right? It makes them uncomfortable and uneasy. And even some of them know the prophecies of how we will be blessed, and they're trying to suppress it. So help us to trust in you and do our part, for just like when Mordecai warned the king of what was going to happen when there was people plots, and then he was just sitting there one night and just thinking about couldn't sleep, and you put it on his mind to bless Mordecai, and that was the right time and the right place. When Haman came in, his enemies had to be the one that showed your love towards Mordecai, even through your enemies. So we know that even in Deuteronomy 30 it said that even the enemies, the things will be, the curses that was placed on us because of our disobedience will be placed on our enemies. So you said vengeance is yours. Help us to get caught up in our part, in our relationship with you, and not worry about what all the other nations are going to do, for we know that you're going to take care of them as well. But help us to do what's right in your sight, and help us to love you and love one another. Help those that are being oppressed or the poor, the needy among us. Help us to love them and not just think about self and be selfish and just think about our own needs, but be a truly a one united people as your 12 tribes coming before you in the love of you and love for one another through the love of the Messiah. We love you and we praise you and ask you to be with us as we part our separate ways and help us to come back to have fun and celebrate who you are and what you have done for us here at 4. In Yahushua's name we do pray. Hallelujah. Amen. Amen.